Good evening. It's been a while. On the 25th of April this year, 2024, I left the Luke Mitchell case for good. And in the 6 months since then, I've said nothing. I didn't think there was anything to be said. I didn't want to distract from the campaign or any of the work that was being done on the case. So I had nothing to say. But the way things have developed, especially in the last couple of months, I'm speaking today because I believe that the loyal supporters, and I mean the supporters who would have done anything to help in this case, the people who went out with stickers and leaflets and posters and T-shirts and hoodies to try and encourage conversations, the people who shared all the podcasts and interviews, the ones who gave out books and got conversations going with people about that did all of that to raise awareness and to bring more and more people on board. To those supporters, I believe I should at least offer an explanation rather than some of the nonsense that is currently floating around the internet. I'll take you back to when it started. It was the 24th of April, and I was sent footage of a conversation between the admins of what was then one of the main groups. And I was horrified. They were utterly, utterly disrespectful, in particular towards two people who have worked really hard on Luke's behalf. One of them is a miscarriage of justice himself, and he and his family have been incredibly supportive in trying to help Luke and the case. The way they referred to that person in that conversation was disgusting. I have no other word for it. It was disgusting. They admit in that conversation that they are completely ignoring a post that I've put out in the group about 2 new podcasts that are coming up. So these were things that had been planned for a while, but as you know, sometimes they take a while to come around. And I just put a message out saying that was them done. And the admins were ignoring it on the basis that they thought I should not be doing podcasts anymore. And that on the basis that Luke had told me 6 months previously to can it with the public stuff. Well, he didn't, but that's what they believed. And as a result, they were being extremely derogatory about the fact that I'd put out a post about these 2 podcasts. There was also a part of this conversation where Gemma is telling the others that Luke's going to call me that day and he's going to have words with me and he's going to... So it sounds like, I'm going to get told off about something here, something that's bothering Luke. The problem we have there is by the time I got that footage, the call with Luke had already happened earlier that afternoon. And we talked about, it was quite a long conversation, we talked about what could go forward with the case, what couldn't go forward with the case. We talked about ordinary stuff, we had a couple of laughs. At no point did Luke give any indication that he was unhappy with anything that I was doing. Nothing. So I left it until the following morning. And then I sent a message to the admins saying I was sorry that they'd had these concerns apparently, but hadn't come to me, hadn't said anything to me, that I was deeply sorry that they'd chosen to speak about these 2 other people in particular in the manner that they had, and that the trust was gone. I wished them well in the future, and as far as I was concerned, that was it. Because in this line of work, without trust, you have nothing. So that I believed, was the end of it. And then Gemma knocked on the door. There was a long conversation during which it was implied, suggested by Gemma, that there had been some sort of misunderstanding or crossed wires or miscommunication somewhere along the line. And she was going to see Luke that afternoon. And she asked me not to make a final decision on whether I was in or out until she'd spoken with Luke, and she would come back to me on her way home after that visit. And I told Gemma, that is my final decision. I'm going to leave it at that for now until you come back and offer me some sort of explanation to how things got here, and then I might reconsider. So off she went and didn't come back. So I'm thinking, well, that's it. It's finished. 2 weeks later, Gemma appears on my doorstep again, acting as if nothing happened. I wasn't rude, but I was very straight with her. She was trying to pretend that she didn't know she was supposed to come back that afternoon. But she's got the key to my house in her hand. Now, I gave her this key back in April because of an incident back then. I gave her the key to my house in case she ever needed to get to a place of safety. So whether I was here or not, she could get into my house. She had this key in her hand that day and said, I suppose you want this back. So she knew, but she's still trying to play the, I don't know what's wrong, I don't know what's the matter. Nonsense. I don't play games. During that conversation, she told me that the reason Luke hadn't said anything in the phone call on the 24th of April was because he was too angry. He's too angry to tell me how angry he is. He's too angry to tell me he's got concerns. In fact, he's so angry, the only thing he can do is have an absolutely normal conversation, a few laughs, and make no mention of any concerns. Rubbish. But that was what was attempted to be fed to me 2 weeks after that initial conversation with Gemma. And then nothing. So I thought, that's it, it's finally over. They wanted me out, I'm out. Excellent, let's just leave it at that. Until the 26th of July. So nearly 3 months had passed since that second visit from Gemma. And I get another message from Gemma, and this time she wants me to support her with a complaint to the police about another supporter. I absolutely refused. I was like, look at the situation here. A Luke Mitchell supporter wants another Luke Mitchell supporter to take a complaint to the police about another Luke Mitchell supporter. That is nonsense. And I absolutely refused. Just not happening. And that, it appears, is the straw that broke the camel's back. Because just a few days later, Luke wrote me a letter. And there's this list of demands and another list of accusations. And an instruction, not a request, an instruction that I get some stuff together and have it ready for a specific date at a specific time, because somebody is coming to my house on that date at that time. One person. I was peeved. I'm not going to deny it. Yeah, no. Do you have anything on that day? Are you busy that day? Will you be home that? No, you will be there with that stuff on that date. So I put the letter back in the envelope and sent it back. No comment. On that date, now to let you understand, back in January, Gemma and Nicola had collected all the case papers and taken them off to be scanned. They also had 2 scanners that were bought from the funds, plus my own high-speed scanner, which they took with them, and a bunch of USB sticks to scan the files onto. So they had most of the stuff anyway. What was left, I had the PA system, I had a couple of bits and pieces here. So I took them out on the morning of the 10th. I took them out and put them on my path beside the gate and covered them in case it rained. And then I came in and locked my door. I had no intentions of having any further conversation with Gemma, which is who Luke had said was coming to the door. She'd already been dishonest enough. I wasn't going to have any further conversations with her. So I was watching from my bedroom window. 2 cars pull into the car park. One goes to one side, one goes to the other. I've no idea how many people were in the cars, but 3 people got out. Rachel and Gemma came up and round to my door, but Fiona got out in the car park and started filming. She's filming my neighbours' gates and gardens. She's filmed the alleys. She filmed up and round to where my doors are, filmed the other neighbours, and then she doubled back and she's hiding behind my gate, filming through the slats, presumably hoping to catch whatever interaction there was between me and the 2 that were on my doorstep. That I was not happy about. The fact that there were 3 of them, the fact that they were filming, and the fact that they were clearly filming all the routes to my house. I was not happy with that at all. So I said through the intercom, everything you're entitled to have is on the path. Take it, leave, and don't come back. And Gemma's response was, everything we're entitled to have, with or without a court order. So there we are, 21 years down the line. There's where we're at. That should have been the end. I wish it had been. But what they did next, given the circumstances, is unbelievable. They launched a witch hunt. And not only did they launch a witch hunt, but they joined people who have been scathing about the campaign from the off. Now, this started off reasonably calm and escalated, which is why I'm telling you about it today. So I'll start with the first bunch in no particular order, and then the second bunch. So the easy one, the first one, is really, really, really easy. It's the one where people claim that I'm not a criminologist and my degree's in philosophy. It's a shame. They think because Doctor of Philosophy's got the word philosophy in it, it must mean that's what my degree was. It's very sad. But this one's easy because you can Google it, right? I did my PhD at the University of Stirling in what was then the Department of Criminology. Both of my supervisors are professors of criminology. My chief examiner is a very well-known professor of criminology. The PhD studentship was funded by the Scottish Centre for Crime and Justice Research. Is it? Google it. It's there. So the people that are lying about this are knowingly lying about it. At the same time, as I was doing my PhD, I did a specialist paralegal qualification in criminal law. Can't remember if it was Strathclyde University or Glasgow University. It's one of the two. So I also have that. So I'm completely unqualified for this work, obviously. Next up, the damage to the case files. Now, Nicola and Gemma were with me when the damage was discovered. We'd gone to collect the case files because they were going to take them away for scanning, and discovered that there had been water ingress and the bottoms of some of the boxes were wet. So all 3 of us discovered that damage on the same day. But the claim is that I am responsible for or caused the damage to the case papers. Now, first up, I had those papers in my possession between 2009 and April 2022. Obviously, there were chunks of time, so there was time when they were at the Commission, there was time where they were at Mojo, but I had them all the rest of the time. And I can prove up until early 2021 that those papers were undamaged because the film people needed access to them for the documentary. So I'd looked after them for all that time and they were completely undamaged. They went into storage in April 2022 because I was not going to be in Scotland. There was a trusted supporter was supposed to pick them up in the summer of 2022 for scanning, but that didn't happen. So maybe if it had, they wouldn't have ended up being damaged. But like I said, I can prove up until 2021, these papers were undamaged. But what they did with this is they used a police tactic. So instead of, oh dear, the case files have been damaged, what happened? They started from, Sandra has no respect for the case files, and by extension, no respect for Luke and no respect for the case. And that's why she allowed the files to get damaged. Now, it's patently nonsense, but that is a police tactic, and that is what they have been putting out. It's just, it was really awful to discover that some of the papers had been damaged, but the story that they put out surrounding it is completely untrue. Next one. Now this is a minor one, but I just want to cover it. They put something out saying that I had been responsible for the fundraising up until November 2023. That's not accurate. In June 2023, when they took the Buy Me a Coffee down, I said, if we can't get this one back up, I'm having nothing more to do with fundraising. Because it was so frustrating putting these fundraisers up just to have them taken down, to put them up, to take them down. I said, right, somebody else can take a shot at that, because I'm done with it. And of course, they didn't put the Buy Me a Coffee back up. So June 2023, not November 2023, as has been claimed. But now we get on to the stuff that they started putting out on the internet, which is just untrue. I'm going to start with Rachel's embarrassing and dishonest explanation for my absence. She started off by saying that, there had been concerns for a long time, concerns that nobody had mentioned. They were just sort of swirling around in the ether, apparently. And then Luke had to write to me because he'd had no contact from me after I told his friends in April that I was out. No. Everybody, Luke included, knew on the 25th of April that I was out, and they knew why I was out. I can't just pick up the phone and speak to Luke. He calls me, and he has not called me since the 24th of April. So the idea that he suddenly wrote to me on the 1st of August because he hadn't heard from me for a while is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That letter came on the back of my refusal to back Gemma with her police complaint. So please, Rachel, if you're gonna tell stories, get the facts right. It was Luke who cut the contact, not me. Nicola approached podcasters who had done interviews with me but hadn't put them out yet, to warn them that they might want to think about whether to put these out because of what she said was, that Luke had withdrawn permission for me to work on or speak about his case because there had been a massive breach of trust in that I had lied about the work that I was doing on his case. She also put out that nothing had moved forward since 2014. Let's get a couple of things straight here. First and foremost, nobody, and I don't care who they are, nobody tells me what I can and can't say. Okay? We'll get that one straight. As for the nothing being done and lying about what had been done, I have proof, documented proof, back to May 2015 of everything I've done and who I've spoken to and what I've dealt with, just everything. And I can prove it all the way back to 2015. Can Nicola back her claims? No, she can't. They also used a loyal supporter to put out a post about what was in Luke's letter and what I'm supposed to have known and what I was supposed to have done and everything else. How would a supporter have known what was in that letter? Or what I was supposed to have known or done? Or what? That was just, they didn't want to put their own names to it. And so they used a loyal supporter to put that information out, again, to try and undermine my position. Finally, Fiona's running about telling people that I'm an alcoholic because I often drink wine in the evenings so that I can switch off and get some sleep. Classy, Fiona. Classy. But the irony that they're putting out all the stuff and they have not a scrap of evidence. But I do. I do. So I don't know what they were hoping to achieve with all this. I was out. That's what they wanted. They wanted me out. I was out. I don't know why they had to keep it going the way they did. But in September, I received another letter from Luke, which I also sent back. And things then ramped up to a new level. They started leaking private messages between me and the admins. But they were leaking them via a person who was calling themselves James Brockett, who claimed to have just come out of prison after a 12-year stretch and that he'd known Luke for 12 years in prison. Well, if he got a 12-year stretch, he didn't just steal a packet of Wotsits, did he? And I found this quite disconcerting. This guy has access to all these private messages. What else did he have access to? There's film that they took. Did he know how to find me, where I am? Who is he? Where is he? Now, only 4 people had access to those messages, and that's Nicola, Gemma, Rachel, and Fiona. Somebody was giving this James Brockett these messages to try and cause trouble. I don't know if James Brockett exists, but if he doesn't, what kind of sick mind would come up with something like that to terrorise a woman living on her own? What is wrong with people? And I don't know to this day if he's real or not. I have no idea. But these messages were getting picked up by other posters and repeated and caused one poster to say, "That's Sandra Lean trying to blacken my name." Well, first up, I did not, the message in question, I did not name anybody. Secondly, it was a private message. It was never intended to be in the public domain. But this is how they were being used now that they were out there. And then finally, a letter claimed to be a physical letter that Scott Forbes had sent to Luke, found its way to someone who runs a podcast called What They Found. And that podcast has been absolutely scathing against the campaign from day one. And again, the 4 people that I mentioned earlier are the most likely to have had access to pick up that or to receive that physical letter from Luke and pass it on to this podcaster. Talk about sleeping with the enemy. Really? I think there's two more things that I wanted to talk about. These claims that Luke booted me, Luke kicked me off the case, Luke got rid of me. I had been gone 3 months, more than 3 months, by the time I got that first letter from Luke. You can't get rid of somebody that's already gone. Can't do that. I was out. I was gone. And they all knew that. But the last one is, these claims that I've refused to hand over documentation that I'm now holding illegally. I gave them everything except my own work, which they have no right to. But they kind of need to make their minds up, don't they? Because either I did nothing, and therefore there is nothing to hand over, or I did the work that I've said I've done, and now they want to get rid of me and to rubbish me, but reap the benefits of the work I've done. So which is it? They've got everything they were entitled to. They've got all the official case papers that were in my possession. They've got all the stuff that they asked for. They are not getting my personal work, especially given that they've already put stuff out into the public domain that should never have been there. They don't know what they're doing with it, so they're not getting it. I guess the thing is, I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. They wanted me out. I'm gone. Why all this wasted energy focused on trying to destroy me when they could have been carrying the campaign forward? All they've done is divert all that energy onto something that is meaningless in terms of moving the case forward. I don't understand that. I want to be absolutely 100% clear. I have not changed my position. I believe Luke Mitchell is completely innocent of the murder of Jodie Jones. He had no involvement in it. I totally believe that. I also still want to see Luke's name cleared, the conviction overturned, and the real murderer brought to justice so that Jodie can have justice. That's what this is all about, and that's what they've all forgotten. So I won't be there now when that happens, and it will happen eventually, but I won't be part of it. I wish everybody involved in taking the case forward all the very, very, very best. Do your best for both of them. Stop this nonsense and do your best for the two of them. Two kids who never got justice. We're 21 years down the line. We don't have time to waste. To everybody who's been supportive to me personally, thank you for all your kindness and all your encouragement. But it's time for me to move to new pastures. Hopefully, I'll see some of you along the way, but this will be my last word on these matters. So, take care.